All right, so good afternoon and welcome to the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center 2016 Air Source Heat Pump Installer Training. We're excited to provide this as a resource about our program. I'm Karen Coil, Project Administrator here, and I'm joined by other members of the heat pump team. We've got Becky, Meg, and Tara. And if you can't hear me or have any issues at all, please do write in the chat box. And otherwise, for questions, we'll have plenty of time at the end of the presentation. So please do hold your questions till the end, or again, send them to us through the chat function. Our agenda for today, I'll introduce our organization here at Mass CEC, provide a quick overview of air source heat pump technology, and then jump into our rebate program requirements. Finally, we'll show you where to find the rebate program application materials and run through a quick application demo, and again, end with plenty of time for questions. So to start, a quick introduction to us over here at Mass CEC. We are a publicly funded agency dedicated to accelerating the success of clean energy technologies, companies, and projects in the Commonwealth. Now, air source heat pumps. As I'm sure many of you know, air source heat pumps can provide cost-effective and energy-efficient home heating and cooling. Mass CEC encourages the installation of these heat pumps because they're a way to electrify heating and move away from burning fossil fuels in the home. Additionally, they're easy to install in existing homes. They can be installed to supplement existing heating systems. They provide both heating and cooling in a single efficient unit without the need to install ductwork. And finally, the heat pumps are currently the lowest upfront cost of any clean heating and cooling technology and can be more cost-effective to operate than traditional oil, propane, or electric heat. Next, we'll jump into our rebate program requirements, which will be the bulk of our presentation today. First, we'll dig into the technology requirements. Equipment that's considered eligible must have heating capacities of up to 60,000 BTUs per hour at 47 degrees Fahrenheit for the dry bulb temperature. They must meet NEAT's cold climate air source heat pump specifications, which can be found on their website. And the equipment must also meet our performance requirements, which we'll get into next. So in addition to basic equipment eligibility, we also require that ASHP systems must be ENERGY STAR certified. Its compressor must be variable capacity. The indoor and outdoor units must be part of an AHRI, otherwise known as Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration Institute matched system. And finally, the system must be able to deliver 100% of its rated heating capacity at 5 degrees Fahrenheit. I've also included here the specifics on our performance requirements. So you can take a moment to look at the ratings for COP, HSPF, SEER, and so on. And as a note, here rated heating capacity refers to the higher of the AHRI rated heating capacities at either 47 degrees Fahrenheit or 17 degrees Fahrenheit. And the heating capacity delivered at 5 degrees Fahrenheit refers to the maximum heating capacity at 5 degrees Fahrenheit. So next we'll jump into project specifications, where we'll be discussing our requirements for a successful rebate application. First, we do require for our timeline that applications are submitted within 60 days of project completion. Second, for a site to be eligible for the rebate, it can either be a new construction or an installation at an existing home. Sites must also be located in territories that pay into the Renewable Energy Trust or be offsetting electric resistance. For site eligibility, we also require that residences have had an energy audit within the past 48 months, which equates to 4 years, or have one scheduled in the 6 months following the project completion. As a note, no audits are required for new home construction projects, and in addition to a home is still considered an existing home and would require an audit. We can talk a little bit more about that later at the end if there are questions. And we also waive energy audits for multi-unit buildings that have 5 or more units. Finally, to ensure our awards are available to as many people as possible, we do cap our awards to $35,000 per fiscal year for any individual project system owner. I also want to talk a little bit next on projects that install whole building ASHP systems, because we do have more detailed requirements for these types of projects. So first, for projects designed to supply 100% of a building's heat, meaning there will be no backup heat source, we do require a heat load calculation. And these calculations must use the ACA, or Air Conditioning Contractors of America, Manual J. Finally, for parameters, we do require that the indoor set point be between 68 and 72 degrees Fahrenheit, as well as use the outdoor temperatures you see to the right for Massachusetts design cities. So in the last few slides, we've covered equipment eligibility and project site requirements. Next, we'll get into installer eligibility and then learn about the new income-based rebate adder for this year. In order to participate in Mass DEC's rebate program, we set in place a few requirements in order to ensure the quality of each heat pump installation. That said, each installer must submit a signed copy of the primary installer agreement, which we'll show you a little bit later in the application demo. Submit a letter or certificate from the equipment manufacturer verifying successful completion of training for products that the installer plans to install, and that training must be a minimum of 4 hours within the last 5 years. And finally, installers must be willing to have their projects inspected at any time. And in the case that inspections are selected, the rebate will not be paid out until issues, if any, have been corrected. And just a quick note on inspections. We've done quite a few in the past, and about 2/3 of the sites that we inspected last year in 2015 failed initial inspections primarily due to electrical wiring issues. So we just wanted to raise awareness over that here, just so that everyone can be aware of that when they are installing their next heat pump. And finally, as a segue into the income-based rebate adders, I've included here a slide on our rebate levels. So for the standard base rebate, we offer $625 per system for single heads, or $625 per 12,000 BTUs per hour, or 1 heating ton. And with income-based rebate adders, these rebates go up to $750 or $1,500 depending on project type and eligibility. So lastly, we'll discuss a bit about our income-based rebate adder and then get into a quick application demo and open up for Q&A. So as I mentioned previously, this income-based rebate adder is new for 2016. Here at Mass DEC, we wanted to introduce this income-based rebate adder to increase access to clean heating and cooling technologies. To be eligible, applicants must complete income verification, and this can be done one of 3 ways. They can provide an electric bill from within the last 6 months that shows a low income rate code, which is typically an R2 or R4. They can submit a fuel assistance letter from within the past year showing the date, the system owner's name, and the project site address. Or applicants can choose to verify their income through Mass DEC's income verification portal at massdeciverify.com. And this option would be done privately, and this information would not be shared with either the installer or with Mass DEC. We simply receive an email through the system once an application is approved, and then we would be able to process the application with the higher rebate awards. So as a note, income-based rebate adders are based on income and household size, which applicants can reference through this table, which is also included in our program manual, of which I'll point you to at the application demo. And to qualify, an applicant must have income below 120% of the state median to qualify for that increased $750 rebate. And I also want to note that the 80% income-based rebate adder is only available to those who are replacing or supplementing electric resistance. And finally, we know that discussing income can often be a difficult conversation, so we are currently working on a handout that installers can provide to their customers to introduce both the rebate program itself and the income-based rebate adder eligibility. So before we jump into Q&A, I wanted to show a quick demo on where to find the resources you'll need to apply for our rebate, including our program manual and the actual application. So on this landing page, which is www.masscc.com, there are a couple ways you can get to these program resources. You can click on Get Clean Energy, and save money on your home heating and cooling bills. This will take you to our general clean heating and cooling page, which has both air source heat pumps as well as a variety of other technologies. And as an installer, you would click Installer Resources. And this will give you all of our steps to applying for the rebate. So as I mentioned earlier, to become an eligible installer, we'll need a signed primary installer agreement, which is shown here. We'll wait for that to load. So it's information about the company that you work for, the address, email, and then a couple of statements that we require you to certify by signing your name. And just as a note, this primary installer agreement only needs to be sent in once per installer, so you do not need to send it in with each application. And by May 1st, we will require that all installers at each company have it before rebates can be sent out. So back to the installer resources page. Again, it lists out the steps for applying for a rebate. Here is an example of the completed Excel application file. So this is our most current application. As a note, we do update both our program manual and our rebate application forms from time to time, so please do make sure you always have the most up-to-date version. Just quickly running through this application, we have a checklist at the top so that you can make sure you've included all of your necessary materials. System owner mailing address and contact info, pretty straightforward. This will be the address. I want to note that if the rebate check is mailed to the system owner, that this is the address it will be sent to. So in the case that there are any PO boxes or address differences, please do let us know. An email is fine. Primary installer company info here. We do note who the rebate check should be made out to, so whether it's the installer or the system owner, as well as whether or not this applicant is applying for the income-based rebate adder. And then finally, information on the project site, which includes the address, if different from the mailing address at the top, as well as information on the electric utility service provider. We do need that date of home energy audit, as well as looking at, does the home have a backup heat source, for example. And then next we have some information on the project, including the completion date and the costs. And then finally at the bottom, there will be drop downs for the single head or the central and multi-head systems where you can select your eligible equipment that's been installed, and it will automatically calculate your rebate for you. So that is our rebate application. And then with each application, we also require that participants agreement, which is different from our primary installer agreement. So our participants agreement must be signed by each system owner for the rebate application. And as you can see, a couple pages to read through, which talks about our program and making awards and so on. And then at the bottom is a page that we require both the system owner and the installer to sign. And please note that we do require an initial for each of these statements to certify understanding from the system owner, as well as the date of the energy audit here. And one thing I did want to note too is that we must have handwritten signatures and a scanned copy of this form, so we cannot accept typed signatures, for example. So all of the information for you as an installer will be on this page. Again, with the rebate levels, how to apply, and we've consolidated all of the resources for you at the bottom of the page. And to submit your application, you would email ASHP, Air Source Heat Pump, so ASHP@masscc.com. So summary of our resources. About the program in general, you can visit our website, again, at masscec.com, as well as reference the Air Source Heat Pump Program Manual, which is also found at that site. For installers, you will need to submit your primary installer agreement, as well as a certificate or letter of manufacturer training that we mentioned earlier. And again, to submit for a rebate application, we would require you to complete the Excel rebate application form, have that signed participants agreement, as well as include a copy of the equipment invoice, a date of energy audit, and a copy of the most recent electric bill. And you send all of that to ASHP@masscc.com. So that ends the formal portion of our presentation. I'd now like to open it up to questions. Our first question, what about condos? Not quite sure specifically what you might be asking about in the case of energy audits. Again, unless the condo has 5 or more units, we do require an energy audit. So anything from 1 to 4 units requires an energy audit. Anything 5 or above does not require one for a multi-unit home.
And this is Meg, just to add to what Karen said, condos are eligible for our rebate, if that was the question.
Our next question, many different owners and condos, different utility accounts. In this case, I'm taking a guess that the question is how you would handle the electric bill. In the case of individual units, if you have an individual, I'm assuming your unit is having a heat pump installed, then that specific unit would need to submit an electric bill. If that doesn't answer your question, please feel free to clarify. Next question is, can I receive a copy of these materials for today's call? Absolutely. We'll be posting the webinar online, as well as you can find all of the materials required for a rebate application on the website that we just demoed. Next question is, when do you anticipate any programs for small businesses? That is in the works.
We're hopeful that by April we could launch kind of an equivalent program that would be open to small businesses.
Mm-hmm. The next question is the energy audit through the Mass CEC or Mass Save? We at Mass CEC do not do or conduct energy audits, but you can get a free energy audit through Mass Save. The next question is, based on your website, can you tell me if the Mitsubishi MUZ FH18NA is eligible for $650 in rebates? The sheet that was sent to us in January 27th says it's not.
So that unit, the MUZ FH18NA, just fell off of the NEEP cold climate specification due to some recent national changes in Energy Star. We've given it a grandfather period through May 15th in our program, just to account for any jobs that might still be out in the field. So as long as you get the application to us by May 15th of this year, we will accept rebates for that unit. After that, we will no longer be accepting rebates for that unit.
Next question, can we get a copy of this presentation? Absolutely, we will be sending it out. Next question, when and where can installers send in the agreement and certificate from manufacturers? Again, all of that information, please do send it to ashp@masscec.com. Next question, if the customer is in a municipality that does not pay into the Renewable Energy Trust, but heats with electric, are they eligible for the CEC rebates? Yes, as long as they are offsetting or supplementing that electric resistance.
And I'll just give a word of caution since this is being recorded. That funding comes from a separate source of funding than our main program. So that is currently true. If that funding were to run out, we would give at least 2 months notice that those projects are no longer eligible. So for now that's true, but that funding may run out. So encourage clients in municipal electric plant districts that are replacing electric resistance to get those projects in now.
The next question, can the installing contractor perform the energy audit? As of now, we do require that it is performed through Mass Save. So for now, it is a no. Next question, can you go over the difference between the 80% and the 80 to 120% rebate adders?
Sure. Do you want to put that slide back up?
Sure.
We have the base rebate is $625 either per single head air source heat pump or per ton of capacity for a multi-head rebate. If your homeowner has an income below 120% of the state median income, which is we'll be showing shortly what that level is, and it's also in the program manual, and it's also available on the website www.massceciverify.com. So if they're at or below 120% of the state median, they're eligible for $750 per single head air source heat pump or per heating ton for the multi-heads. For a small group of homes where the household is below 80% of the state median income and the home is replacing or supplementing electric resistance heat, and that's important, both those conditions have to be met. They have to be below 80% of the state median income and supplementing electric resistance heat. They're eligible actually for a much higher rebate of $1,500 per single head air source heat pump or per heating ton for the multi-head. And so then a follow-up question may be, what if my homeowner is below 80% of the state median income but isn't supplementing electric resistance? They would be eligible for the 750 rate, but not the 1500 rate.
Next question, again clarifying the 80% income rebate adder. Yes, for the 80% adder, it must be offsetting electric resistance. Next question, does an energy audit from Next Step Living qualify?
As long as it was done through Mass Save, it should. I know that in the Boston area, they are the provider of energy audits for Mass Save, so I imagine that it would.
Another question referring to a condos audit requirement. Again, any units in a building with 1 to 4 units does require an energy audit. Any buildings with 5 or more units, we will waive. Next question, what is available in rebate for commercial? Also, what are their maximum amounts?
So right now, there's no commercial program. We just have a residential program currently. As we said earlier, we're hoping around April or sometime this spring, we would release a similar air source heat pump rebate program for small businesses. So stay tuned for that.
Next question, please tell me again what unit that is grandfathered in.
So that was, it's actually 2 units, and it's on our website. It's the 2 Mitsubishi units. The MUZ FH18NA is grandfathered in, as well as one of the multi-heads. Could you go to the installer resources page? I just want to make sure I'm getting the second unit right. So it's right at the top of the page. There's a little note that the MXZ 8C48NAHZ is also grandfathered in through May 15th. So as long as we get the application by May 15th, it's good. Starting May 16th, we won't accept those applications.
So next question, again with condos and audits, a little bit more of a detailed question. Is an audit required with a condo with less than 5 per building, but more than 5 in the complex? So in this case, I believe it would be required because it's per building.
So I actually think that Mass Save looks at it per complex. So if your complex has 5 or more units, whether they're in the same building or whether they're different buildings, we would waive the energy audit in that case.
Next question, can you clarify what you mean by equipment invoice? Do you mean contractor invoice to the customer? Yes, that is correct. We ask for an equipment invoice so that we can verify the specific model that was installed with our eligible models list. Next question, I was told that there's a 3 months waived for the FH18, therefore would we need to use the older application form to submit for it?
The application form we have online now still has that unit. It just notes next to it that the application needs to be in by May 15th.
Next question, based on the max allowed for a rebate, if a 2-family unit installs 2 separate units or on 2 separate occasions, would they still be held to the max of $2,500?
So that's a little bit of a brain teaser. I want to make sure I'm understanding the question correctly. If they're 2 separate units, we could treat them basically as if they were 2 separate homes. So each home would have a lifetime cap of the $2,500. So if one condo unit installed 1 unit, and then they 6 months later came back and installed another unit, they could get that second rebate, and each condo unit would be treated as its own separate unit or home, and the cap would be per condo unit.
Next question, is the program scheduled to last the entire year?
Yes, it is, although our incentive levels may change before the end of the year. So we try and give at least 2 months notice before incentive levels change, because we know you have jobs out in the field with customers currently. So it is possible that, as we, if we see the market is strong or, limited funding ability, we may change incentive levels from what they are, but we would give at least 2 months notice before changing incentive levels. And it is our intention to run the program throughout the year.
Next question, would they be eligible based on the timeline the unit was installed?
So I'm not 100% sure what that question means. Whenever we give deadlines, it would be that the application has to be in by that time. So for example, if it's one of the Mitsubishi units that's coming off our list, those applications have to be in by May 15th. In general, all project applications are required to be submitted within 60 days of when the project is installed.
Next question, can a homeowner leave his or her electric resistance heat as a backup source in place? Yes. We don't have any specific requirements on backup heat sources, so absolutely they can have that electric resistance. What is proof of upcoming audit? Just a date. We do go a little bit by the honesty policy in this case, although for our energy audit requirements, so the reason that we have it either 4 years prior or 6 months after the installation date is to give that flexibility to get an energy audit, because we do believe that it helps promote more energy efficient use of heating and cooling.
We don't want clean technologies in a leaky home. And like Karen said, we are mostly going on trust. We will randomly select a set percentage of projects where we will ask to see an email confirmation or the actual energy audit report, but in general we're going based on trust. So just having that date will be enough for us.
Next question, are fan coil ducted units attached to single or multi-ported air source heat pumps qualify for rebate?
So right now, the bulk of our eligible units are either single head or multi-head mini splits. We do have currently one unit that's more of a central ducted unit, but like I said, the bulk of our currently eligible units are either single head or multi-head mini splits. If that didn't totally answer the question, feel free to write in to clarify.
Next question, if a primary installer agreement was submitted in 2015, is a new one required for 2016? And the answer to that is yes. We do have a little bit of an updated form and agreements for this year, so please do complete a new primary installer agreement even if you had one in 2015. Next question, are there any applications which require pre-approval? We do not do pre-approvals. So as long as your equipment is eligible and on our list and you meet the requirements of the program, please feel free to submit that application. And if there are any questions that come up, we will be in touch.
Yeah, and if you do have a question before you are doing a project, you're just not sure whether it's eligible, always feel free to reach out to us, either at that ASHP at MassDEC email or the number we gave at the end of the presentation. We're more than happy to take any questions you have about project eligibility.
And that's a good piggyback into the next question, which is asking more about the income-based rebate adder and what if a customer is relying on the funding, is it somewhat of a guarantee to receive the funding? How does the owner know that their grant will come through? So again, it is a little bit on the customer installer part to verify the eligibility of equipment and have the required materials to come through, as well as ensuring that their verification selection of whichever they chose to do it, whether it's an electric bill that shows a low-income rate code or having that fuel assistance letter. I'm not going to say it's guaranteed, but that pretty much is what we require to show that eligibility. The other thing is that with our Mass CEC iVerify income verification portal, it does take about a week for that review to go through. So if the homeowner wanted to do that verification and wait for the approval to come through, that's also an option.
Yeah, so like Karen said, if for the homeowner, if they have a question about whether they'll meet the thresholds or if the money is really the deciding factor, they can do the income verification before the job is even installed. So they can, they'll sign up, go through that process, get a letter saying that they're approved, and then at that point they could choose to go forward with the job if they really want to see that guarantee that they're going to get the higher funding level.
Mm-hmm. Next question, was there a max of $35,000 per person on the rebates to be applied for? Yes, so we do have two different caps. One cap is per project site, and the $35,000 is per individual person applying. So if you are a landlord, for example, and have multiple site projects, we would cap the rebates that you can get for those combined at $35,000. Next question, is the site visit still valid for a year to process the rebate? Not quite sure what that question is referring to with the site visit. So if you could re-ask, that would be great.
But just energy audits are valid for 4 years for the program, but the actual rebate application has to be submitted within 60 days of when the air source heat pump is installed.
So next question, I installed the job in December and the rebate amount dropped from $750 to $625 on January 1st, 2016. Why?
So we chose to lower the rebate levels for the start of this new year based on the strength of the market we were seeing. We had a lot higher volume of applications than we were expecting, honestly. Starting last summer, 2015, we're on pace to have about 4,000 applications this fiscal year, which was definitely a lot higher than we were projecting. So seeing that the market is doing so well, we felt that we could scale back our base rebate a little bit. And that also allowed us to add the income-based adder. So that kind of is our effort to make the technologies accessible to all households in Massachusetts while setting the incentive at the appropriate level for the market.
Next question, current project is whole house with 4 ductless on 1 unit and 1 air handler and 1 ductless head on a 2-zone unit. Can it qualify based on total tonnage, or is that air handler a problem?
It sounds like a question that maybe is better if we could talk on the phone or email about specifics. So please do reach out to us on this one, either at the phone number or at ASHP at masscec.com, and we can understand the specifics of your question a little better.
Next question, I was under the impression that matching ducted systems connected to grant qualifying outdoor HP units would qualify for the grant. Can you comment or clarify?
Sure. So our, as Karen said, it's a base requirement that to be eligible for our program, you have to meet the NEAT cold climate air source heat pump specification. And for a long time, the only indoor units that were on their list were non-ducted indoor units. So something like the wall-mounted, floor-mounted units, those were eligible, but a ducted indoor unit wasn't meeting their specification. As of just recently, there's one Mitsubishi unit that is eligible for our program with ducted or non-ducted indoor units. I believe that's the 4C36 NAHZ. But it's just a question of whether the ducted units are able to achieve the efficiency requirements that we have, and for the most part, they haven't been able to achieve that yet. So in general, we only accept non-ducted indoor units, but we do just as of a few days ago are now starting to accept ducted indoor units for this one particular model. But please feel free to reach out to us and ask for clarification or look in the program manual for some more specifics around that.
Next question, what if it's a condo association that is trying to submit an application for multi-unit condo buildings? Are they eligible?
Yes, but at this time each unit would have to submit its own application, or someone could centrally coordinate it, but there would have to be an application for each unit.
Just to clarify, a 5+ unit apartment building is the same as a 5+ condo, meaning no audit needed. Correct. So it would be any building type per se that has, residential building type that has 5 or more units, the energy audit would be waived. Is there a list of installed projects to date? If so, where is the list? We do have, not sure if I'm understanding the question correctly, we do have a list of eligible equipment that can be installed, and that can be found in our program manual online.
But we don't currently have anything about actual project sites. I know it's something that Mass DEC does for some other technologies like solar PV and solar hot water. At this time, it's not something we've put together on the air source side, but could be coming down the road potentially.
Was a comment about a few installation jobs that were finished up at the end of December. It's a done deal, and the customer was notified of the pending rebate. Not quite sure if you had a question attached to that.
We know there was a lot of frustration around the change. We did announce it at the end of October to give people time to finish up those jobs and get the applications in by the end of 2015. But we know there was some frustration around it, and we appreciate everyone's patience in changing over to our new rebate level.
Next question, what about second home or vacation property? Again, as long as the site is eligible, please go ahead and send in a rebate application.
It should have year-long heating, not just cooling.
That's a good note. We do require that the home is used for heating. So if it's just a summer home and they're going to shut down the property in the winter, then that wouldn't be eligible. They'll need to initial that they're going to be using the heat pump for heating.
And again, with units that we will no longer be accepting, we do have a note right on that installer resources page on the Mass DEC webpage, as well as an updated list that includes the ducted units. Next question, a homeowner had a previous energy audit, 12 to 18 months previous. Would a new audit be required? No, because that is within the 48-month time range. Next question, will a list of installers be available for homeowners similar to 2015? Yes, we do have that up on the website now under the air source heat pump. There's a button that says apply now. And under that, homeowners can find a list of installers that have submitted their primary installer agreements and their certificates of training, and we will be updating that list from time to time. And it is also categorized by city or town. Next question, how can we trust that the information that we're given about rebate amounts are correct so that we can inform our customers?
Like we said, we'll give at least 2 months notice if we're going to change rebate levels. So I would just urge everyone to make sure you're checking the website frequently, and you'll see a notice up on there if there's an impending rebate change.
Next question, is additional money available if we provide domestic hot water with air source heat pumps, such as the Altherma system from Daikin?
So that unit is no longer part of our rebate program. So for the time, the answer is no.
Next question, on the contractor application, the signature required is from the manufacturer or the distributor?
So the actual primary installer agreement just needs to be signed by the installer, him or herself. And then we ask that with it, there's a training certificate, and that training certificate can come from the manufacturer or from a distributor who runs training. Either one is fine.
Next question, energy audits. To clarify, 5 units and less or less than 5. Energy audits are required for less than 5. So again, any units 1 to 4 would require an energy audit, and any units, or sorry, buildings 5 or more would not.
So for example, if you have an apartment or a condo that's in a triple decker, that unit needs an energy audit. But if that apartment is in a 6-unit building, then they don't need the energy audit.
Clarifying on Manual J, a Manual J is required for whole house heating, but not if you are doing a section of the house that has central heating. So Manual J is if 100% of the entire house that you are working on is being heated with an air source heat pump, then yes, we would require a Manual J. Otherwise, if it's just part of the home, we do not. Next question, can the installers get an email when funding levels change, or do we just keep looking at the rebate form?
That's a good point. It is up on the website, but we will also send out emails as soon as we post any incentive level changes. So if you're an installer, you should get an email from us at least 2 months before any rebate levels are going to change.
Next question, what about a Manual J for a new construction addition where we'll be the primary and only source of heat?
In that case, you don't need a Manual J. You know, I assume you all are doing some kind of heat load calculation or something to design the system to meet adequate capacity. And if you want to submit it, we'd love to see it just for our own information. But as Karen said, at this time, we're only requiring Manual Js if the air source heat pumps are providing the heat for the whole house with no backup.
Next question, Manual J for whole house heating with the mini splits.
So kind of a similar idea. You know, currently we're only requiring the Manual Js if you're putting in air source heat pumps and they're going to be the only source of heat with no backup.
Next question, clarify on the contractor requirements. Certificate of training, again, for an installer to be eligible for our program, you must have the primary installer agreement signed, 1 per installer, and as of May 1st of this year, we'll require that every installer have it in a company. Currently, it's as long as 1 person per company has a primary installer agreement, we'll accept it. But again, by May 1st, we'll require that everyone has one. So if you can do it now, please do, and it'll make it easier for everybody. And then again, the certificate of training from the manufacturer, you know, whether it's emailing us the certificate or a letter certifying that you've done so from the manufacturer, both of those would count. And that looks like it wraps up the questions for today. So thank you all of you for joining us today. Again, please do check our webpage frequently for any updates, as well as for all the materials you'll need for an application. And of course, feel free to reach out to us at ashp@masscc.com if you have any further questions. Thank you, everyone.